Hello and welcome back to the Underlap. I'm once again joined with Isaac and we have a new guest on today. Welcome Freddie,
everyone.
All the way from Dubai.
Yeah.
Freddie, how does it feel to be on here today?
Yeah, it's great. Just cool to be able to speak about the football, yeah.
So obviously today is Valentine's Day, but it's also the return of the Champions League. So today we're going to be going through
without a girlfriend.
So today we're going to go through the fixtures, and obviously we're going to do the Around the 92 section from last week, and we're also going to be introducing a new section called Brad versus the Guest, football tic-tac-toe, but we'll explain that later. But first we're going to get straight onto it, to start with PSG versus Bayern Munich.
Freddie, do you want the honours?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Bayern Munich because since the World Cup they haven't been beaten, and since they got back in any competition. They did have a few draws, but yeah, they haven't been beaten. PSG have had a bit of like a rough patch recently. I know Mbappe's out. I think Messi's not been playing that much either for them either. So I do fancy Bayern to beat PSG.
Yeah, PSG just lost to Monaco 3-1, I'm pretty sure, this past weekend. I've still got PSG to win. I just think the quality is going to shine through. I think especially with Mbappe missing the first leg, there is absolutely no way that in the return fixture he doesn't attempt to make an impact. The only issue there for me is the damage control with PSG. They tend to bottle it each year. Like in the notes for the initial segment that we were going to do, I just said don't bottle it for PSG. Because they've had so many years now in that position where they're coming up against the best teams in the world, and year after year after year they score own goals, they give the ball away with stupid passes. Like players like Marquinhos start to look like David Luiz at the final stage of the Champions League. But depending on how many they concede in the first leg, I think they could go on to win it in the second leg as long as it's less than probably 3 goals. I think if Bayern score 3, which seems likely with some of their attacking players in Mane, Musiala, Cancelo's come in. But I'm going to back PSG just for their star quality.
So I've also backed PSG to win the tie overall, but very narrowly. The only thing that concerns me a little bit about PSG is their squad depth, especially in attack, because outside of the front three and like Ekitike, they haven't really got many because they let a lot of players go out on loan, like Icardi and Sarabia.
Yeah.
So
Di
I'm
Maria
worried,
left as well.
I'm worried a little bit on their squad depth to a point where if Messi and Mbappe are out for at least the first tie, they haven't got many players to cover. Like Neymar can only do so much on his own, really.
And Ekitike isn't proven at that top level either.
Yeah.
He's been okay so far at PSG, but he's not Champions League quarter-final against Bayern Munich quality.
I just think that PSG have to go for it eventually because people like Messi and Neymar, they're not getting any younger.
No.
So if they want to maximise and get the most out of them being at the club, they want a Champions League out of them. They didn't sign Messi to win Ligue 1 again.
Yeah.
They signed him to win the Champions League. So if they want to maximise that, then I think they need to go for it this year or next. And it's a good chance this year because if they can take out one of the biggest competitors, then they'll have a good chance going forward.
Bayern are up there for ones who could easily win it. It's a shame that these two have come against each other so early. I would have liked to have seen this.
I mean, this was
as
the
a semi-final,
wasn't
yeah.
it? Like only a couple of years back.
Was that the lockdown final? Or?
Yeah, I think
it was the year before.
Was it the year before?
It was 1-0 though. It was Koeman, was it?
Yeah, Kingsley Coman,
Swiftly moving on. Antonio Conte returns to Italy for AC Milan versus Tottenham. How do you see that one going, Freddie?
I think it'll be a tight one, but I do fancy AC Milan. I think Tottenham have been very poor in the Prem recently. And AC Milan do have quite a lot of quality in the likes of Rafael Leao, Olivier Giroud. So they have a lot of talent on their side. I do fancy AC Milan to get the win there.
I've spent so much time thinking about this one because they're quite evenly matched teams. Like the way Spurs are set up is to defend against the way that AC Milan play. So I'm not 100% sure, but with Spurs' recent form, Son's not been the best this season. I think Bentancur's out for 7 months now.
Yeah,
I think.
ACL injury.
And that's a huge loss. So I think that AC Milan's quality is going to shine through. You've got Rafael Leao, you've got De Ketelaere, you've got Tonali, Benacer, Hernandez. I don't think, especially fullbacks-wise, they outmatched Tottenham completely. Like Serginho Dest Is Diogo Dalot still there? Oh, no, he's a Man United,
United.
isn't he? Yeah. Jorginho Dest, Calabria, they're both better than what Tottenham have to offer, and I think that's where they're going to win it.
Although it was a bit of a disastrous debut against
yeah,
Leicester
Tim
this
Sherwood
weekend.
said that...
the worst debut he'd ever seen.
Yeah, he shouldn't ever play for Tottenham again or something. That's not a player
it's hard
he wants to defend.
It's hard as a defensive player to flourish in a 4-1 defeat to Leicester.
Yeah.
But, you've got to realise that he's adapting to a new team, a new league. Like, he's not going to hit the ground running straight away like some players can.
Because did he even get minutes for Man City?
No.
At any point. Did he even play pre-season for them? So
probably briefly, but
he'll have such minimal experience in
Yeah.
England, and he's not the biggest. Like, I feel like they're making the same mistake as when they signed Reguilon. Though it's another like frail, technical fullback that they're turning into a wing back that's just not going to work for Tottenham.
No, Pedro Porro definitely played wing back for Sporting, and he was very good on the.
Oh, he's better going forwards, but Tottenham's issues are defensively. They've got one good centre back in Romero, and that's it. So
I'd also say it's not easy going into a dysfunctional team.
no,
Like, when a team's not playing well, it's really hard to shine in that kind of team. I mean, we saw it with Sancho. Like, he was ripping up in the Bundesliga with Dortmund, goes to United, and he's really struggling, but the team around him is struggling as well.
and with such a volatile manager as well in Conte,
Yeah.
who changes his mind like that and is quite stubborn. If you have one bad performance, you're benched for the next game.
Yeah.
Getting back into that squad is so hard, and that's not good for morale either.
So I've said that Spurs will go through, but closely fought. I think Conte will do well against the Italian sides because obviously he's been in that league before. He knows the Italian style of play. And AC Milan haven't been as strong this year. They're sitting in 5th at the minute and about 18 points behind the leaders, which is a bit of a downgrade from last year when last year they won the league?
Yeah.
So obviously Tottenham in the league as well. They're pushing on a bit now for top 4. But yeah, AC Milan haven't been as strong as they were last year, so I think people might not have that fresh in their minds if they don't really keep up with Italy. They'll know AC Milan won the league last year, but they may not know that they're currently outside the top 4 and 18 points behind the leaders. So I think Tottenham can edge it. I think Harry Kane's going to be crucial for them if he performs.
As usual.
Yeah, if he performs, then I think they'll win. But if he ghosts, then AC Milan might nick it. But I think it'll be quite a close game. So moving on to the less headliney game, Club Brugge versus Benfica.
Club Brugge, actually.
Personally, I think Benfica win this quite comfortably.
Yeah, same.
So Club Brugge have struggled this season. They've had a lot of excessive amount of draws, 9 draws, and they're 20 points beyond the league leaders in Belgium.
Yeah.
They've got 2 major injuries to Juckler and Skov Olsen, who have got 8 and 7 goals in the league respectively, 2 and 1 in the Champions League. So they're missing basically the way that they operate going forwards, and against like the back line of Benfica with Silva and Otamendi, I think it's Morato and Verissimo. They've got a solid rotation of centre backs there that are going to be able to deal with the substitute options that Brugge have to offer.
Yeah, and Benfica have been quite strong in Portugal as well. They currently sit top of the league.
Yeah, that's
they're
what
managing to hold Porto off a little bit. I think they're 5 points clear of Porto at the moment.
Yeah.
Benfica will have crucial players like Gonzalo Ramos, players like that that can.
Gonzalo Guedes.
Yeah,
as well.
They can really turn the tie, and I think Benfica win this quite comfortably over 2 legs. Maybe they get held in Belgium, but I think once it goes to Portugal in the second leg, I think they could win quite comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in knockout football, anything's possible. Like, you just never know. Obviously, Benfica lost Enzo Fernandez to Chelsea in the winter transfer market, so that may, make a difference to how they play. But yeah, I do fancy Benfica as well. I mean, Club Brugge are 4th in a pretty poor league, so you'd have to fancy Benfica. But I mean, anything's possible. So.
Isaac, did you have a
Benfica?
Fair enough.
I agreed with you.
We'll move back into Germany for Borussia Dortmund versus Chelsea. I think this is quite an interesting game between 2 quite evenly matched teams on paper. But I think Chelsea go through because I think they have to go for the Champions League this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Just to justify the amount of money that they've spent, because they're doing quite poorly in the league this season, and I think Graham Potter's going to be told by the board that you need to go for this competition. We need European football next year. If they can't attain it through the league, then they've got to do it by winning a cup. And I think the Champions League, they've won it 2 years ago. They've got a good enough team now, on paper anyway, to do it. They just need to get them going together. Dortmund are slightly inconsistent. They've got the most defeats in the German top six, so they are suspect to a loss here and there. Whereas obviously Chelsea aren't doing that well either. But obviously all these new players through the door, they've got to get performing, and some of them are proven on a European level.
Yeah.
Enzo Fernandez just won a World Cup, so you'd hope that he can do well in a tournament anyway. So I think, like I said with the last game, I think it might be held up to a draw in Germany, but I think Chelsea will take it in London.
Yeah, I think Chelsea have no choice but to go for the Champions League. Like, I know last week we said they'd probably get Europe. I said they'd get Europe. I still think they could potentially go for a Champions League spot, but it's going to be a lot harder in the league, potentially, than it will be in the Champions League. And I think they're still finding themselves out, but the quality that they have and some of the experience still left in that squad, and then the determination of the new players coming in, they've got no chance now to fail. They have to beat Dortmund. They have to move on to the next round. Semi-finals minimum for Chelsea to call this season somewhat of a success.
Yeah, I think this season in the Champions League is a bit of an all or nothing. To be honest, I don't see Potter lasting much longer if they do lose to Dortmund, because they backed him heavily. They've spent a lot of money on players, and just the way that the Chelsea operate as a club, they're not known for keeping their managers in for a long time. So I can't see if they lose to Dortmund, especially where they are in the league, I don't think he'll last much longer. I'd be surprised if they lose to Dortmund if they keep until the end of the season. But yeah, I do fancy Chelsea to beat Dortmund. I think it would be a close encounter because, as you've said, they are quite evenly matched. But yeah, it could go either way, but I do fancy Chelsea to get the win.
Moving on to last year's final, another one that's quite the big headline fixture of this round, Liverpool versus Real Madrid. Liverpool won yesterday against Everton. Quite a poor Everton side. Obviously, they did beat Arsenal last weekend, but it's those results happen. But Real Madrid haven't been the same as last season. Obviously, I don't think they'll win the Champions League this year. I don't think they're going to win La Liga either. I think Barcelona are probably going to win La Liga.
Yeah.
But I think Liverpool are just a little bit too poor, they needed to turn their form around a bit sooner, because it's right up to the Champions League now.
Yeah.
And yesterday was their first win in 2023, in league football anyway, which is disastrous for a Liverpool side that have aspirations of winning the title, and they're currently sitting and
the amount of
just
money
near the bottom of the top half of the league. So, well, yeah, I don't know. Liverpool, obviously, they didn't fix their depth issues in midfield, at least anyway. They've constantly getting injuries. They played a back two of Matip and Gomez yesterday, which is obviously not their favourable back two, obviously without Virgil van Dijk. And they're sort of playing Gakpo a little bit out of position, I feel.
Yeah.
Obviously, he did get a goal yesterday, but
yeah.
I don't think the false nine that Klopp used Firmino for, I don't think that suits Gakpo. Obviously, he doesn't want to play Nunez as a false nine because he's obviously got the pace to play in behind, and that's why he's playing him at left wing as like an inside forward. But I don't think Gakpo suits that role because he's too clinical in front of goal, and he can run at defenders, and that's not what the role that he's currently being asked to play. He can't do that at the moment. But I don't think Liverpool get revenge for last year, and I do think Real Madrid do take the tie. I think Liverpool might win the first game, but I think Real Madrid might win the second game comfortably because obviously Anfield of the last few years has been a fortress, and maybe not so much this year because obviously Liverpool have been taking a lot of losses. But Real Madrid might struggle in Liverpool, but when they go back to Madrid, I think they might win pretty comfortably. So yeah, early Europe exit expected for Liverpool. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more, really. I don't think Liverpool have much to offer Real Madrid. I think Real Madrid are way too measured. They know what they're doing. They're not really in a transitional period currently, so I don't think that there's any worries for them, really.
You know what? I'm going to go with a bit of a shock. I think I think Liverpool are going to beat Real Madrid. And, it's such a weird one to say because Liverpool have been so poor this season. And I mean, look, Real Madrid haven't been the best either. They haven't been as good as they were last season. They lost to Barca in a cup final only a couple of weeks ago. I think they lost like 3-1. So they've not been at their best either. But you know what? I just fancy Liverpool to go on a bit of a Champions League run. And you always see these teams like just out of nowhere make like this surprising run to like the semis or something like that. You saw Chelsea in was it 2012 where they won the Champions League with one of their worst teams they've had in like the last 10 or so years. So you know what? I fancy Liverpool to scrape a win.
A surprising cup run, and Liverpool probably shouldn't be named in the same conversation. Yeah. Especially when a final last year, Champions League winners just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, but
to say they're gonna have a surprising cup run.
Well, that's how quickly football changes. But it's a similar situation to how Chelsea are this season. Like the discussion we just had about Chelsea, Liverpool need to do the same. Liverpool are still dwindling. They're still down there, and the same for Chelsea. Getting a Champions League spot in the league this season is going to be really tough. So going for the Champions League is probably their best option because you've got a limited amount of games in the Champions League. It's one-off knockout football. Like Freddie said, anyone can make it towards a final, make it to a semi-final. Why can't Liverpool do it? Why? Because they're facing Real Madrid.
Well, not only that, but they've been very, very poor this season. Obviously, you'd back Liverpool to go far in the tournament at the beginning of the season because, you know, of the club that they are and the team that they are and the players that they have. But this season just hasn't been their season, and you'd hope that if Liverpool had a chance of going far in this tournament, that they would have turned their form around a bit quicker and a bit sooner, because now they go into a Champions League game against Real Madrid with one win this year, so it's not exactly what they would have hoped. But maybe the win against Everton yesterday will give them a bit of confidence to start turning it around.
Napoli against Frankfurt. Napoli, isn't it?
I think, well, I personally said that Napoli have been one of the best teams in Europe this season, and I said that they are my dark horses to actually win the Champions League.
Because
they're so far clear of Italy at the moment. Well, at the top, it looks very, very likely that they're going to win the league. Victor Osimhen's on fire. He's got 17 goals in 18 league games for Osimhen. Obviously,
that's what they paid 70 million for 2 or 3 years
ago. That may be what they gain 100 million for from Man United.
Hopefully.
But yeah,
you're not back in Weghorst.
Oh no!
Over Osimhen, no.
No. Different levels.
Can't pronounce his name. Kvaradona, I'll call him. He's a top player. For someone that they signed. Literally, was it this summer they signed him for 10 million? Or was it last summer?
I think they signed him for 4.3 million or something like that.
I thought it was 10 million.
Was it 10?
I think it was 10.
Either way,
yeah, he's been top class player. Definitely one of the younger players to keep an eye on. If he can have a breakthrough Champions League campaign this season, then he'll definitely start catching headlines of moves to
well, he's had a breakthrough league campaign. He's been absolutely incredible.
I think he's top of the assist chart.
Yeah, I think so.
He got a hat-trick of assists, I think.
Yeah.
But he's just turned 22. So what he's doing for a 22-year-old is pretty good. Obviously, he's got some competition ahead of him in that age bracket with Mbappe and Haaland. But if he can break through and put his name out there, especially taking Napoli far in the Champions League, like Mbappe did with Monaco a few years ago, where he turned into one of the best players in the world. If he can do that with Napoli, as well as having players like Osimhen around him, as well as other players that they're the best team in Italy at the moment.
Zielinski, even Ndombele is doing his thing over there,
it just seems like everything's going right for Napoli at the moment.
Yeah, it does.
Especially they had a great showing in the group stages. Obviously, it's a bit of a while ago now, but they absolutely battered Liverpool. And obviously, Liverpool haven't been as good this season, but back at the start of the season, they weren't doing horrifically. But Napoli turned them over pretty easily. So yeah, I do think Napoli could go far if they get a few favourable draws. Like, Frankfurt isn't exactly the toughest draw. Frankfurt can still provide a shock because they're a good enough team. They're Europa League champions. But if they can go through here and get a favourable draw like, I don't know, maybe Inter or Porto, I know Napoli have proved that they can be the best side in Italy. If they get an all-Italian draw in the next round, they might be able to get through that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Napoli can take it pretty easily.
Yeah, look, I agree. I think Napoli are going to beat Frankfurt. I mean, I wouldn't write off Frankfurt. I think in Europe they tend to pose a threat. I mean, they've gone on, they're obviously, as you said, Europa League champions. They have had other, European runs which have been impressive as well, so I wouldn't write them off. But, I mean, Napoli arguably have been the best team in Europe this year.
Sorry, continue.
I'll
spoil that later.
I think probably quite a lot of people that are really into football would say Napoli are going to win the Champions League. I don't think they're going to win the Champions League personally. I think they lack the experience of their team. I think they're a bigger club will win it with more experienced players, more winners in their side.
Yeah.
But look, they're going to be up there because they are a quality side, top of Serie A, playing fantastically well. They did lose in the cup to, I can't even remember who it was, but they lost on penalties in the cup. So obviously maybe that's something to look at. But yeah, I fancy Napoli to get the win.
So back to Germany again. We've got 3 German ties in it this year. Leipzig versus Man City. Man City, obviously, I don't know how they're going to approach this tie because Pep sort of said the league's finished and all the cup competitions are finished. I don't know if he rotates in this to try and keep the pressure on Arsenal in the league or whether he goes full strength and tries to, go all out in the Champions League this season. It all depends this tie because Leipzig are a dangerous team when they're on form.
Yeah.
So they could cause a problem. I don't think they have the quality to beat Man City because even Man City's rotated team still is fronted by Julian Alvarez, who's a class player
he's
and
brilliant.
could turn the tie on his own, really.
Yeah.
So it sort of depends on how Pep sets this up. If he starts Rico Lewis and players like that who are not exactly main starters, then Leipzig have a chance more so than if they were starting De Bruyne and Haaland. But I feel like Man City, regardless of whether they rotate or not, have the players in depth to still, kick on and take this tie pretty easily. Whether they don't quite get it in Germany and whether they wait till the second home fixture to take it. But I do think City will win this. I have actually got tickets to that game. It's like 2 days before my birthday.
Oh, nice.
So, well, I think it's the week after actually. But yeah.
It's just having a quiet birthday.
Yeah. Should be a good game though.
Not too many people though.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm not sure if they do rotate. Obviously, the league's still there to be won if they beat Arsenal on Wednesday. If they beat Arsenal on Wednesday, they'll go top of the league, even though Arsenal do have that game in hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think City take it.
Yeah, I think City win it, no questions. Overall quality is a lot better. Leipzig are always going through the motions, I think, especially this season. They've been through multiple managers, so yeah, I just think Man City take it. I think they win comfortably in Germany and then they do a lovely 0-0 draw where they defend the whole time and just keep possession round the back four at the Etihad.
Yeah, look, I think Pep Guardiola is desperate to win the Champions League. So he's going to go all in. I can't see him playing youngsters in the Champions League. He is going to go completely for it. I think they're going to bottle it again, to be honest with you. But
what club do you support again, Freddie?
No, honestly, I think in big games, Pep Guardiola just overthinks it too much. But I do fancy them to beat Leipzig. I think he's going to go all in. He's going to start Haaland. He's going to start De Bruyne. He's going to go all in. No doubt about that. And I think they have too much quality for Leipzig.
So finally, moving on to the last fixture of the game week, we have Inter Milan versus Porto. I've got a closely fought battle between the two sides, but I think Inter Milan do edge it slightly. I think they might win the home game pretty comfortably, maybe 2-0, 3-0, and then to a point where they can keep Porto out enough in Portugal to go through. Inter are second in the league, but have the most defeats in the top 6. And Porto are also second and only have 2 defeats this season, which is pretty good. But I think Inter Milan on paper are a stronger team.
Yeah.
Obviously, to only have 2 defeats in Portugal is pretty good, but it's a lot weaker of a league than Italy.
Yeah, for sure.
So, obviously, both teams quite similar in performance at league level, but for Inter Milan to do it in a harder league is obviously better. But yeah, I think Inter Milan will take it. I think they'll win comfortably in the first leg to a point where they can defend it out in the second leg and not take any chances and not let Porto back into the tie.
Yeah, not much more to say from me, really. I think Inter take it. I think Porto always tend to do quite well in the Champions League. They're one of them that if they're not in the last, 16 to 8 teams or whatever, you think, it doesn't really feel like a Champions League because they are always there. But I think Inter have the quality overall, so I think they're going to win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Inter as well. I think it'll be quite a tight game because, I'm not going to pretend like I've watched loads of Inter this season. But what I can see is they're quite a defensive side. They tend to win games by 1 goal or lose games by 1 goal. So I do think they'll win it, but I think it'll probably be like a draw at Porto, and then Inter will probably get a 1-0 or 2-1 win or something at when they go back to Italy.
So swiftly moving on then, we'll move on to our Around the 92 section. So my headline for this week literally came out this morning.
Yeah.
Jesse Marsch should be set to become the new Southampton manager, which I now think that Southampton are preparing for relegation. Because it's such an unambitious signing after they've just had one of the worst managers in Premier League history in Nathan Jones. Why then would you go and bring in this manager that's just been sacked from one of your relegation rivals?
Yeah.
Jesse Marsch wasn't proven enough at Leeds. He didn't really prove that he had an ability to take Leeds forward, even though Leeds were showing signs of promise. But I think that was more so from individual performances from players like Gnonto and Brendan Aronson. So Jesse Marsch, really, I'm not quite sure what kind of appointment that is. Obviously, Southampton haven't really found another manager since Ralph Hasenhüttl left, and I don't think that was even completely his fault. Because I think he's a great manager.
Yeah.
And I think he had a really poor team to manage to a point where...
And the fact he kept them up for so many years was impressive.
And without much of a financial backing, they were just bringing in young players from Man City, like Bazunu and Levia. So, for him to even keep Southampton up when every year people were saying Southampton relegated, he kept them up. And I think any other side in the league, I think Ralph Hasenhüttl shows that he's a quality manager. But Southampton's such a difficult team to manage.
Yeah.
So to bring in someone who's just struggled at another Premier League club to then go and fight another relegation battle, it's sort of just such a confusing and it seems like a panicky appointment.
Yeah.
Southampton
he's still in the country, but he's not left to go home yet.
He's probably not packed his stuff yet from Leeds. He's just moving straight from Leeds to Southampton. But it just doesn't make sense to me. I thought Southampton were quite an ambitious club. Well, they've had good managers in the past, like Maurizio Pochettino. Even Ronald Koeman, when he was there, was a good manager at the time for them. And it just seems like every year Southampton's ambitions just get lower and lower to a point where it just gets to a point where they're literally preparing for the Championship.
Yeah.
Because this was once a team that was in the European spaces with Graziano Pella. And even a few years ago, Sofian Boufal, he was a great player.
Yeah.
Players like Dusan Tadic, they've had such quality players over the year, and every year they just seem to drop in quality to a point where it's gone too far now, and they can't really turn that around. So yeah, that is my news story for the week.
For my Around the 92, I've gone for Bolton Wanderers. They played their 5,000th league game, professional league game, and they won it 5-0.
Were they the third team in English history to reach that milestone?
I'm going to assume so now you said
I
it.
I think I saw somewhere that they were the third or fifth. It was around that to played 5,000 games. Obviously, they're one of the founders of the English division. So yeah.
Well, they're climbing back up there. The win took them into 4th place. Knocked Peterborough down to 9th, and Dion Charles scored a hat-trick.
Not bad.
Okay, so I've gone with a last-minute change of plan, but I'm going to go with the Qataris potentially buying Manchester United. So I know this has been a bit of a big news story, and honestly, I'm all for it. Totally. I just want, as long as they care about the club and they're interested in what's going on in the club, unlike current owners right now who don't really care about the club.
Hey, at least you're honest.
Yeah. I mean, like,
Breaking news: Manchester United fan wants that oil money that they've been absolutely slandering Man City for over the last couple of years.
I think at this point, football's moving in that direction.
exactly.
So,
I mean, everyone's getting bought by, the Qataris, the Saudis, UAE sheikhs as well. So, like, to be honest, I don't care. As long as they're backing the club, buying the players that we need, not just throwing money at, like, mercenaries that are just going to sit on the bench and collect the paycheck. Actual players that are going to improve the squad. I'm all for it. Yeah.
So now that the Premier League's back, and obviously league football in general's back, we can start this little weekly thing where we pick a player from the week, or the weekend even, that performance stood out for you. So for me, I'm going to go with Kelechi Iheanacho for Leicester.
yeah.
A very, very unexpected hammering of Tottenham this weekend, and I think he was at the forefront of it.
Yeah,
Obviously, he was in great form just 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, well, we had that discussion last week.
yeah,
I
we
said
had
he was
this
in my
discussion,
fantasy team at
and
the
then
start
he-
of last season.
And then he performs. He gets a goal, gets an assist. I think he had another assist chalked off as well for a Harvey Barnes offside. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure Iheanacho was the one to play through that pass. But he was quality for Leicester last week, and with the form that Leicester were in, especially in the first half of the season, they need someone like James Maddison to help out James Maddison. And I think if Iheanacho can carry on this form, especially from this game, and start performing the way he was a couple of seasons ago, then Leicester have a good chance of turning and making sure that they stay as far away from the relegation battle as they can and potentially push on for the top half of the table.
My player of the week, unsurprisingly, without any bias, is Nathan Teller from Burnley. Scored a hat-trick against Preston. He stood in their box and didn't allow play to resume just so he could look up at the big screen and watch his second goal on replay, which is incredible. He cuts inside, sits a defender on his arse, and then finishes it. It's so good. He scored 5 in his last 4, and that win actually took Burnley to the topmost informed team in Europe ahead of Barcelona, with 10 straight wins.
Yeah, so mine's Harry Maguire. No, I'm just kidding.
Which team do you support?
No, I'm going with...
He was awful against Leeds.
Yeah, he wasn't great. No, I'm going with Ruben Neves. I'm just kidding. I'm not going with Harry Maguire. Yeah, so obviously Wolves got a 2-1 win against Southampton, and massive win for Wolves. Obviously, they've been quite poor this season. I think they scored the least amount of goals in the Premier League.
Yeah, it was at one point.
Yeah, it was at one point. I don't know if that's still the case. But yeah, massive result for them. They obviously went a man down and turned the game around to 2-1. So that's honestly a massive result for them to get them away from that relegation zone. And Ruben Neves was key. So I know he didn't score, but he was key to that performance. So I'm going to go with Ruben Neves.
Just to speak on that game just a little bit, obviously we're now seeing the introduction of referees trying to stand against this overcrowding of the referee. He sent off, was it Mateus Cunha, was it that he sent off?
Was it?
Oh no, Mario Lemina. He sent off Mario Lemina because he was the third player to approach the ref, which is apparently a rule in football that hasn't really been enforced over the last few years. You obviously see, especially in games from the Manchester clubs, Man City and Man United, you'll see pretty much the whole 11 surround the referee on a decision.
Yeah.
And then we saw it again in Manchester City's game against Aston Villa. Ruben Diaz was booked for being the third player to approach the referee. So obviously it's good to see, because it's never good to see a penalty call and you see 7 players literally bullying the referee. So it's good that they're trying to take a stand on this and start booking players more, because then obviously then we might see. But at the same time, VAR had a disastrous weekend to a point where they've had to send apologies out to clubs. They've had a formal meeting.
They forgot to draw lines, didn't they?
At Arsenal. So at that point, if the refereeing quality in this league, in this country, even in the Championship's even worse.
Don't get me started.
But if the quality is going to be that bad, you've got to expect players and managers to be unhappy and to to question the decisions.
Yeah.
And if it gets to a point where players are surrounding the referees just to try and get the referees to make the correct decision, like, it gets to that point. And obviously it's not great to see. The referee must be a bit intimidated that 7 people are just screaming at him all around him. But at the same time, like, the referees in general have got to take a step back and think, am I making the right decision here? Am I trusting VAR to overturn my decision? Because I feel like sometimes referees in the country overuse VAR in a point that they might think, I don't really need to make a key decision here, because if it's the wrong one, VAR are going to overturn it for me.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're then a little bit lenient to give a penalty decision or disallow a goal for offside. Like linesmen, sometimes if it's a bit of a close call, they keep their flag down and let VAR decide. And I don't think that's proven very effective when the amount of VAR decisions have gone so poorly lately.
Yeah.
So I think the referees have got to put a bit more back in and a bit more trust back in themselves to call the action themselves, rather than relying on VAR to be there to help them out.
Yeah, go on.
So on that point, we'll move on to the final.
That's all right.
We'll move on to the final topic of today. This new game that Isaac's seen on TikTok.
Hell yeah! It's so fun.
So Isaac's seen, as you brought it up, I'll let you explain.
Right,
how it
football
works.
tic-tac-toe. You got a 3x3 grid. To put a marker down, you have to say a player that has played for both clubs. Brad's going to be X's, you're going to be O's. You cannot use the same player twice.
So for this, obviously it'll become a weekly thing. We're going to keep track of... so I'm always going to play against the guest. And we're going to keep track of how many times the guest can beat me by the end of the season.
Right.
So...
On that, Freddie.
Shall I start, or do you want to
No,
start?
I'll start.
Yeah, the guest.
Right, I'll go with Manuel Akanji for Dortmund and City.
Akanji is good.
Yeah.
So, I will go for Christian Pulisic for Chelsea and Dortmund.
Is there a time limit?
No, you can think about it.
Okay.
I'll give you up to a minute.
Right, okay.
Tell us which one you're thinking.
You can pass.
Yeah, if you want to pass, you can pass it on.
pass. It's too
And
easy.
if you get it wrong, it goes to the next person.
I mean, I'd hope so.
Yeah.
Why can't I think? Oh my god.
Come on, Freddie. There's plenty of teams there. Plenty
I
of
know.
spaces.
Oh my goodness, it's so easy when you look at it from the outside. Oh.
Like the amount of times we've played this,
Oh.
and we've just been sat there, and we'd be like, "Oh, I know that one," whilst 2 other people.
Oh,
are
okay.
playing.
Eden Hazard.
Yes.
Oh
Eden
my
Hazard is
goodness, I don't know why that took me so long.
These rules, do they have to be presently playing?
good. No.
Then I'm gonna go with Kaka in the bottom right for Madrid and Milan.
Yeah. Kaká is good.
And as for my middle one, I'm not sure if he played for Porto.
It's Freddie's go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Well, I was just... It's in my head.
Okay, guess I was.
You got to try and block him, Freddie. Here.
Oh yeah.
City and Porto.
There's one player.
Yeah, and he's in my head, but I'm not sure whether he played for Sporting or Benfica or whether it was Porto.
You don't have to block him. If he gets it wrong, you could start a...
Okay, I'm not going to block him actually. I'm going to go with Robinho.
Robinho is good.
Oh, well, if I go for that middle one and get it wrong, he wins.
Well, it depends if he gets it right.
Oh,
You might as well just go for it
they're
at this
all
point.
Porto or Dortmund and Milan.
There's a surprising one for that one. Actually, I'll give you. All 3 are quite surprising, to be fair.
I'm gonna go. I'm not sure if it was Benfica or Porto. I'm gonna go with Bernardo Silva.
That's not right.
Oh. Does that mean he's won?
No, because I have to get it right.
Freddie has to get that one. Right, you got 1 minute, Freddie. 1 minute. Can you think? If not, you can go for a different area, or you can pass. That middle one's going to prove crucial because one of you needs to get it to win now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, unless someone gets all the Porto
They have
players.
a lot of
somehow.
Portuguese players.
Yeah, but that's still
Oh
middle
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Maybe work around it. I think if we keep watch of time, we've got 5 minutes left of recording. We may have to. This may have to end in a draw if none of you can get it. I'll give you a hint. There is only one player
You've already said that.
that this can be.
Not
There is
much of a
only
hint.
one.
You know what? I'm going to take a punt. Is it Riyad Mahrez?
It is not Riyad
Riyad
Mahrez.
Mahrez for Porto.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Maybe like before he went to Leicester or something.
He was at Le Havre.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm gonna go with Ruben Diaz.
No,
Nah.
incorrect.
Are they still playing?
Yes, but not at a high level.
Ah.
I don't think.
Hmm.
Not at the highest level, anyway.
Is it Negredo?
It's not Negredo, but that is a good shout.
That's not a bad guess.
I can give you. Do you want me to give you the nationality? Once you've taken another guess, I'll give you the
I'm
nationality.
gonna
so
go
it's
with
fair.
an outsider shot of Stefan Jovetic.
It's not Stefan Jovetic.
Oh.
They are French,
French.
which probably confuses things even more.
Oh, who City had that? French. Is it? Oh, is it Gal Clichy?
It's not Gal
That's
Clichy,
not a
but
bad guess.
that
Damn
is
it.
not bad at all. He played with Gal Clichy.
I'm gonna
pretty
go
sure.
with Bakary Sagna.
It's not Bakary Sagna.
Oh,
It's. Oh, right, I'll give you one more clue. He had a horrendous debut for Manchester City.
Colo Torre.
It's
He's
not Colo
French. He's
Torre.
not French.
Is it? Oh, crap.
Samir Nasri.
Not Samir Nasri.
Let's go for every French
Right, he
player.
is a
I'm not
French-
gonna say Benjamin Mendy.
He is a French defender who had a horrible debut for Manchester City.
Oh, defender. Oh.
I'll give you a defender. That's 3 clues now, no more. We may have to go to just who shouts it first at this point.
Yeah, no, let's just go with that. Let's just go with that.
Oh.
Right, we've got 2 minutes before we need to finish up.
French defender.
Yeah. I can give
Centre
you
back.
I'm going to
Centre
be
back,
kicking
yeah.
myself as well.
Not Laporte. French defender. French centre back.
Do you want me to find what other teams he's played for?
Yeah,
Is
that
that
Yeah,
gonna-
go on.
Might help when you say the era of players that he was playing at Man City at.
He played with. He played for Manchester City between 2014 and 2019.
That's
He's
a long
also
time.
played for Valencia and Everton, and now he's at Saint Etienne.
Oh my goodness, I'm going to be kicking myself.
You are, because he's notorious for how bad he is.
Oh my word!
But we got
Oh.
one more minute.
You're kidding me. Oh.
Just whoever's first to say.